Hi, leaders, and welcome to the Don't Lead Alone podcast. In honor of launching our 2021 plan on increasing community based services' ability to leverage digital tools and skill sets, we today are going to dive into what it means to have digital intelligence and how not to fall into ageism trap with your client base. A little bit of housekeeping. We are offering remote in services on aging and digital tools. So if you want to get more in depth with us on aging and digital rapport building, aging and digital community building, how to do outreach and more, please give us a call. In January, we are running a deal on these in services. We're running a deal on our in report services. And we are also running a deal on AgeFlux, our digital community building platform that was designed with older people in mind. January is a hot deal month for us because we want agencies to start off the year on the right foot with the right tools and really allow that to lean and guide them through this year and part of their strategic plan. So that is our housekeeping. All right. So I have been steeped in technology since the 90s. It's been part of my everyday. It's part of my communication, my productivity, part of my free time enjoyments. I enjoy PC games in my free time when I have it. I used it every day in high school. I used it every day in undergrad and in my master's degree. I've used it every day at work. You get the picture. And with all of this exposure that I've had while I've held social work and administrative roles during my career, I've played accidental techie at almost all of my organizations because I was chronically the youngest in the aging sector in my area. So everyone naturally turned to me, assuming that the millennial is going to scare the computer into submission. Accidental techies, in case you're wondering, accidental techies are those people who you go to when you are having a computer, software, or internet issue and you don't know how to fix it yourself. Accidental techies are not paid IT professionals. They just happen to have the know-how on getting you out of whatever precarious situation you landed yourself in. And while I've always excelled at tech, now I have the pleasure of studying tech, especially through the lens of social work and older adults. I study digital solutions, digital rapport building, digital outreach, digital engagement, digital services, etc., all on a focus with older people. Especially, I still encourage my clients who are, say, food pantries or churches to still engage with this kind of content because older people are going to be the ones that are more difficult for you to reach in this capacity. And we're going to pull that apart in just a little bit of what I mean by that. But I keep up on all of the literature that's coming out. I am keeping touch with some PhDs who are actively doing research in this area. And I learn how to apply all of these things to the systems that you are using with your clients, you as a nonprofit, as a community based organization, using this with your end user, your clients. I do want to talk about something, though, that is very important when we are talking about leveraging digital tools, and that is digital intelligence. Digital intelligence is actually the byproduct of digital exposure plus digital interest. You need to have this exposure piece and this interest piece to have heightened digital intelligence, which makes sense as we talk about this. Someone who is constantly exposed to a task or a tool is going to be proficient in it. I suppose they could quit, but usually proficiency is what we choose to do to maintain our employment. But so they become proficient in it. If you change tires every day, you learn to do it well. If you make phone calls every day, if you have to run meetings every week, if you have to do reporting in a spreadsheet weekly, you learn how to do these things efficiently, effectively. Someone who is regularly exposed to digital tools will have greater knowledge. And this interest piece is always fun to talk about. Think about your own hobbies. Think about how you like to spend your free time. I mean, it just makes sense that when you are interested in something, someone, some activity, that you are curious about it. You naturally want to learn more about it. Let's say you're trying to learn the guitar, you're trying to learn how to dance. Let's go back to the tires. Let's say you are changing tires every day as part of your job and you do it really well, right? You're exposed to it every day, you become proficient in it. But you think, hey, there might be a way to be more efficient with this process. After all, more tires means more business. It means more happy customers. Maybe it means I'm getting the job done faster. And people like that. My business will like that. So you look into it a little further, and sure enough, there is a trick or additional tool that you can use. Because you were interested in improving your system, you took your own learning to the next level. Digital exposure plus digital interest equals digital intelligence. All right, let's talk tech. Now that it has been 9 to 10 months of COVID and adapting to virtual solutions, how did your organization fare? Did you pivot once to your solution and just stick with that? That's okay if you did. That likely means at this point, someone on your team, whoever is running your digital tools, has been regularly exposed and has become at least somewhat proficient in it. Or perhaps you kept searching for the next better solution. Maybe that next better solution was going to include payment processing. Maybe it included automation tools. Maybe it took all of these other little pieces and combined it into one so you didn't have to keep up with all these different systems. You likely, if you did this, if you went through this process, you likely have even more knowledge of the digital space than you realize because you were interested in improvement. You took control of your own learning, your own what was going to benefit you and your organization, and you learned about the things you were comparing. You learned about the things that you were going to read. You had an interest, so in a sense, you expose yourself even more. Also, think about that employee who hasn't touched your solution at all, maybe twice this whole time. The likelihood of them being able to just pick it up and do it the way your main staff person has been is slim to none. They have not had the exposure and they haven't had the interest to learn how this works. So every person, every staff person is different. And all of our clients are different when it comes to digital exposure, interest, and digital intelligence. And our older people are no different. To assume or to even talk as if the majority of older people have low digital intelligence is by default because of their age is not only inaccurate, but it's ageist. Within the aging sector, our clients being the nonprofits, serve community members ranging in age from 50 to 110. 50 to 110. That's a 60-year span. That's a 60-year span. 3 or 4 generations. They could have had blue-collar jobs or white-collar jobs. They could have had their own small business or worked for a large corporation. They could have tinkered in their spare time. They could have learned to use these tools so they could communicate with their geographically distant grandchildren. And perhaps they could have just had other people take care of the tech for them all this time. I have seen an 85-year-old woman have more digital intelligence than a college student. I have seen a 65-year-old teach a 75-year-old. Don't let yourself slip into assumptions based on age. Statistically speaking, The persons who will know the most about tech amongst older persons are those making 75 or more a year. Their higher income tends to signify the administrative tasks and responsibilities that would have exposed them to various digital tools and systems. Also, their disposable income means it has been easier for them to afford things like broadband internet, new devices like smartphones, tablets, computers, and likely at an earlier point in time than when others have finally switched to using these tools. Again, this is pointing to exposure and maybe even interest, right? They were interested in being connected in this way. They were interested in having the new gadget and learning how it works. Also, older adults, also younger older adults, let's say under 70, have more interest. I'm sorry. Let's say the younger older adults, 70 and under, have more internet access and device ownership than ever before. This is a fact. I don't remember how I started that. I don't know why I'm struggling with this paragraph. Younger, older adults have more internet access and device ownership than ever before. They may still be working and be required to be exposed to these tools by their workplaces. They're more likely to be using these tools to stay connected to loved ones that have moved further away, because we're moving farther away from our base units, our family units, than ever before. Pew Research shows that older people are using technology at a rate 5-fold than in recent years. And this trend does not include 2020, our COVID year. And it just points to more growing interest in being connected, using digital solutions for that connection. So here's what I want you to do, nonprofits and community-based services. This is what I want you to do. Assess your client base. Perhaps you are in a manufacturing area, so the majority of your clients have worked a machine line and retired from that. So they have had limited digital exposure and have had very little interest up until now in learning how to use technology. That tells you where you need to start with your client base and maybe what solutions you choose to use, how you choose to roll them out. But now you have data on your side, not just your assumptions about a person's age. Perhaps during the community assessment, you find that while 80-plus-year-olds haven't been exposed to much technology during their lifetime, they are now very interested in learning how to use it. You also find that you have untapped 55 to 65-year-olds who are proficient and would love to support their older counterparts in learning a smartphone, learning social media, learning how to use your tool. And big hint, this is a major strategy that is used for engagement with older adults in digital solutions. All right, I have one last thing before I let you go. Usually, the problem in using digital solutions is poor design and poor teaching techniques. Older people are most likely to blame themselves for a website not working properly, but it's actually the designer's fault and the agency's fault for not keeping their end user in mind. There are a couple of terms that we use, UX and UI, user experience and user interface. And these really need to be thought of through the lens of an older person or your most vulnerable client, whoever that may be. If you are an agency that regularly works with people with disabilities, there are certain standards that really your site should be following. We would love to talk to you more about that. We do have a handful of UX and UI for novices in services if you are interested in learning more about how that works on your website, on a mobile app, or things of that nature. Thank you so much for coming today. You can watch more videos here And you can subscribe to us here. Thanks, everyone. Have a happy new year.